Hi everyone, my name is Lynette. With the travel restriction loosening, I think many of you are planning an overseas trip. Hence, I've compiled this list of questions and answers for all of you who are planning to travel to Seoul, which is a popular attraction. So before we start, let me give you a background of my trip. I'm from Singapore, so I flew in from Singapore. I took the Scoot Airlines and I flew into Korea. I'll be here to stay for a month. The entry requirements varies from countries to countries, so all this advisory and tips that I'll be giving you, I highly suggest that if you are not from Singapore, please do check out on your local requirements. Also, I entered Korea on 4th of April, so some of the information may not be up to date since the travel restrictions have loosened and there may be lesser things you need to prepare. So let's get started. Okay, so the first and most important question, what documents do you need? So when you travel, I think the biggest stress is when you arrive at the airport and you are so afraid that you can't fly because you are missing some documents, right? That's what all of us felt traveling at this period of time. So you will need your proof of vaccination. You can actually go online and acquire this. And then you also need to do a PCR test before departure. For Korea, it's 48 hours before departure. I did it at a clinic nearby. Okay, and you have to have a negative PCR test result. So it is an official memo written by the doctor 48 hours before. And you also need to apply this thing called the K-ETA, which is a temporary Korean visa that is mandatory for all visitors, no matter how long you are visiting now. Lastly, you need to book this PCR test for when you arrive in Incheon Airport. The booking can be done online, and after you book the PCR test, you have to print out the booking appointment time. I do suggest giving yourself some buffer time because sometimes the immigration takes a while but they are actually quite relaxed with it, and I missed my booking quite late because immigration took a long while for me, but they still allowed me to carry on with my PCR test upon arrival. Okay, next question regarding travel insurance. So there are so many travel insurance company out there, so which insurance company do you get from, right? Honestly, I'm not the best person you can ask because my financial literacy is not that game strong, but I did ask around my friends who are in Korea right now and which travel insurance did they get. So I found out a few that I think you can afford to do your own research. The one that I got was from this company called Star Insurance. Yeah, the reason that I got this insurance is because I'll be traveling to the United States after my Korea trip. So actually this is a global coverage. You may not need such a big coverage like me. My friends also got insurance from NTUC Income. I think they are quite popular. And also another friend of mine got insurance from this company called FWD Insurance. So check them out and make sure they hit the minimum requirement of coverage and for the right amount of time. Okay, next, moving on to question about PCR tests and price and clinics. So for PCR tests in Singapore, I did my PCR test in this clinic called MIME. Okay, I think it's one of the cheaper ones. It's only around $90 plus for the pre-departure PCR test. My friends did at Park Shenton, and then also because they mentioned that it's more convenient to the area that they are staying, since you need to do it 48 hours before, and it's better to go somewhere that is more convenient, and their test cost $110. So I think it's around this range of like high 90s or low hundreds. And then lastly, I know that when you book your flight, you can also make a reservation under SATA, which is like the health side of the airport, so you can book like a PCR test under the airport. However, I really don't recommend that because they are quite inflexible regarding the timings. I think at the start I booked that and then I faced some difficulties because they are not really open on the weekends. They have restricted hours and I need to get the results before I fly. However, the associated clinics with SATA also had restricted hours, and they needed like more than 48 hours turnover time for the results. So check all this very, very carefully because especially with midnight flights, it's kind of tricky. So go to a clinic that is able to guarantee that they can come up with the results fast and accurately. Yes, so after you do the PCR test, the results will come out in an email. They'll email you and it will just look like this document. You have to print it and bring it to the airports. Next question, PCR test upon arrival at Incheon Airport. So like I briefly mentioned just now, you can book this PCR test online and it's highly recommended that you book it online. I mean, all of my friends and I booked it online. I'm not sure for those who did not book it if they are able to get a slot physically, but just be prepared and book it online. Yes, so the PCR test at Incheon Airport costs about 80,000 Korean won. Yes, I think is around $100 again, or $90+ in Sing dollar. Yes, and after you take the PCR test, right, you can straight away leave. The whole process takes like only less than a minute. Yeah, when I went, the PCR clinic was not very crowded and it's right at the Incheon Airport. So after I take the test, I can straight away head to my wherever your accommodation is, be it Airbnb or hotel. There's no need to quarantine, even though that advisories do say that please quarantine until your result is negative. So I believe it's up to your personal discretion of how do you think about it, but there wasn't anybody to check and it was fine to just leave. But anyway, if you really want to follow the advisory, the PCR results usually comes out quite quickly. I think for most of us it came less than a day. Yeah, so it's not really a long quarantine. Also, depending on which type of accommodation you stay, for me I stay in an Airbnb, so the rules are a little bit more relaxed. Nobody really checked my documents. My friends stayed in a hotel, so I think they require them to show the proof of negative PCR arrival test. Yeah. Okay, next question is about immigration process. So the immigration process in Korea, they have two separate stations. The first station, they will require you to check all your COVID necessary documents. So this is your proof of vaccination, negative PCR test results. Yeah, and then if you have a booking for the PCR test, and then you go on to the actual immigration where they check your passport and they stamp your passport, these kind of things. So the immigration process actually took quite long for me because I arrived in the morning. I took an overnight midnight flight on a Sunday night. Yes, so I think that time slot is very popular. So it really depends on the time of your flight. Yeah, so if you happen to book a flight that is more popular, you can really expect the immigration to take at least up to 5 hours, which was quite extreme for me. But my friend came in on a weekday afternoon, came into Korea, and her immigration took less than an hour. So yeah, of course you have to weigh between the price of the flight and the time of the immigration. Yes. Okay, next question is where do I stay? So I'm staying in this Airbnb. As you can see, it's very cozy. Yeah, I booked this accommodation in Hongdae area because it's near my dance studio that I frequent, Just Jerk Studio. And Hongdae honestly is the best choice I feel to stay. In terms of neighborhood, there's a lot of activities, and I just walk down and straight into Hongdae shopping street, and there's tons of things to eat, tons of things to do. Of course the price is slightly pricier, but in terms of accessibility, I can go down to the Han River in 20 minutes. Yeah, everywhere is very accessible from Hongdae. Next question, how do you get Korean SIM card and how is it like exchanging currency? Okay, so for Korean SIM card, my friends ordered online, so you can check out the online also. For me, I'm used to getting it straight at the airport because I always trust that they'll have some mobile or like phone line shops at the airport. Yeah, so I bought my I bought my Korean SIM card here. And then for the SIM card, there's two options. The first option is mobile data only. The second option is mobile data and line, means that you can get through someone can get through to you via a number. So I bought the one with the mobile data and line because I'll be staying here for a while and I felt like the line was important. And actually it is quite important because when you make reservations, or for example when you want to go to a cafe and it's crowded and you have a wait list, they want you to queue, you have to key in your local number and they actually contact you through KakaoTalk. Yeah, so all these small little things is sort of makes my life more convenient when you have a local number. Exchanging currency, of course, please don't exchange your currency at the airport. The rates are the worst. You can exchange some cash in your own country. Otherwise, I highly recommend everyone to use this card called Revolut, or you can use another card called Utrip. Honestly, I've heard that the exchange rate in Revolut and Utrip are better than the actual exchange rate of cash in Singapore. I haven't really compared, but I think they should be comparable, and it's really convenient to use a card because it's quite scary to carry so much cash, and a lot of shops in Korea actually accept cards. So I'll put a link of a comparison between Revolut and Utrip card in the description below. You can check out that video. Next question, getting around in Korea. So firstly, they have this thing called the T card. It is something like our EZ-Link card in Singapore. Yeah, so basically you just top up money and then allows you to take the subway, allows you to take the bus, the public transport. And getting around, I think getting around by bus is much more convenient because in the same area they actually have multiple bus stops. Yeah, it's kind of like the case in Singapore where, you know, the bus really brings you closer to the exact location, while for the subway you have to walk a little bit more. Yeah, so the bus is faster. The frequency of the bus is quite high also. I don't really find myself waiting for bus for a long time. However, the transport fee is quite high. I've topped up 30,000 won, which is about $40 in Singapore for my first day, and I think I finished it after a week. So do factor more money in terms of transportation, since I think most of us will be here on holiday. We won't be like just going one place, we'll be like traveling lots and lots and lots. Next question, useful apps to get before arriving in Korea. So the first app is Google Translate. Google Translate is a lifesaver. I think a few of you like me do not really speak Korean or like just understand minimal Korean language from K-dramas. So Google Translate helps you to get your message across to local Koreans. I think the youngsters do understand basic English, and then also there's this very good function in Google Translate where you can actually take picture of the text in Korean and it translates very accurately to English. And especially when you're dining in cafes where all the menus, or like restaurants, or just, you know, smaller eateries where all the menus are in Korean, it's super convenient to use that camera function and you can see everything in English. So the first one is Google Translate. The next one is Naver. Naver is basically like Google Maps. It's a local navigation app that they use in Korea. And why Naver instead of Google Maps? Because the Naver is more accurate and they actually show you more paths. A lot of times the Google Maps here is not very exact, and for example, they want me to walk from here to here, they will just show me one straight path without showing me the smaller nooks and crannies. And in Korea, there's a lot of small streets that you have to like go around and around and around. So Naver would definitely be the better choice. And lastly, like I mentioned just now, Kakao Talk. A lot of places, they will text you through Kakao Talk when you make a reservation or you're on wait list instead of normal message. It's kind of like WhatsApp, yeah. So Kakao Talk, yeah, you can register under your local number or you can register under your Korean number as well. So good to have these three apps. I know some of the online websites say that you need to have this trace together Korean version, but I downloaded it and I realized they don't really use it anymore. I think it's because the travel restrictions has loosened and you don't really need to check in or show any proof of vaccination when you want to enter shopping malls. Free and easy. Okay, so the next is questions about studio classes, dance studio classes in particular. So I'm quite happy that a few dancers have watched this video and they also want to come, and you guys also want to come to Korea to dance. Yes, however, I can only share information from Just Jerk because I've only visited Just Jerk Studio so far. I bought their unlimited class package, so I'm committed to spend as much time and take as many classes over there as possible. The unlimited package goes up for a month and it's 500,000 Korean won. Yes, so for Just Jerk, in terms of booking, they don't allow you to book online. They don't have an online system. Every day their class booking opens at 3 p.m. and it's either you head down to the studio at 3 p.m. to book, or you can just try your luck and reach. Usually the first class starts at 6 o'clock and you can just try your luck and go down at 6 o'clock, which is what I do usually. For other studios, I know some of them did adopt the online approach, so you can book class online. However, I think in terms of buying class packages, the first payment still has to be done physically in the studio unless you have a card that's acceptable. And some smaller studios, which is many small studios, because Korea has a lot of small dance studios, they actually go by Google Forms, and a lot of the texts are in Korean, so it's quite hard to really book a class. So I suggest that you really spend more time doing your research about which studio you want to go and find out how do you make classes from that studio. Yeah, if you have any particular studio you want to go and you want to find out, you can tell me in the comments, because I can ask my dance friends from Just Jerk and maybe I can share with you guys in the comments. Next question, do I know people before going there? Was it hard to make friends? So just nice. If you have seen my vlogs, I've been like traveling or cafe hopping with a friend, and I'll be meeting some friends for the next few days because they are my Singapore dance friends, and just nice they happen to visit Korea in this same time frame. Yeah, so we didn't exactly plan our trip together, but since we are both in Korea, so we figured that we will just spend some time and do some fun activities together. So to answer this question, I don't really know Koreans here before coming here, and I still don't really know Korean people now. Most of the friends I've managed to make in class are more of international people when like they speak English, because there's quite a big language barrier, and if you don't speak Korean, I do think it's kind of hard to make friends in class. Yeah, but honestly, don't quote me because I haven't really tried. So I think if you try, I think they are kind and they will reciprocate it. Yeah. So that's all for my Q&A. I hope that my answers are comprehensive enough-ish. Yeah, and it helps you with some doubts that you have. And welcome everybody to the land of Korea, be it that you are planning to travel next month, next week, next year. I'm really happy that you are coming to this country, even though it's not my country, but it is so beautiful, and I hope you have a lot of fun during your travel. If you still have other questions, let me know in the comments. I'll reply them. Love you. Thank you for watching.